Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you'll be listening to. Summerslam 2023 is in the books.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a reason they call it BummerSlam, because kind of a bummer of a show in a couple different ways.
Yeah.
Of course, as kind of, I guess, maybe one of the most prevalent theories I've read, whether it's online, you and I suggesting it, whatever, Jimmy Uso interfering in the tribal combat match, screwing over his brother who had Roman Reigns on the verge of defeat, turning on his brother and costing Jey Uso the undisputed championship.
The title of Tribal Chief too,
and of course, the Ula Fala as well.
Yeah,
the title of Tribal Chief. A lot to unpack with this year's SummerSlam.
Yes,
I'm sort of curious. I'll be honest. I'm sort of curious how I'll feel about a lot of it tomorrow. There was one, for my money, there were two really, really good matches. Not to say that the Roman J match wasn't good. A little anticlimactic at the end.
Yeah, and for a match that was billed as more or less anything goes, it didn't necessarily go to the lengths it felt like it possibly could have. I'm not expecting a death match by a stretch of the imagination.
No, I think the thing about most Bloodline matches, especially once they really start to pick up steam, is yes, they do follow a similar formula. Mm-hmm. But the performances down the stretch for nearly all of the Bloodline matches are so intriguing and so compelling that it sort of, it basically it lifts those matches to a whole nother level. And I don't know if this one necessarily got to that point.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about, this is what everybody's going to be talking about. There's a lot of people talking about it already. Jimmy turning on Jey.
Yeah,
a lot of people are trying to make sense of it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
On all honesty, I don't know how I feel about it, even though it was amongst the options that were on the table for what could happen to ultimately cost Jey the match and the title and the Ula Fala.
Yeah.
You think about what Jey gave up to have Jimmy's back when Jimmy left the Bloodline. Jey gave up. I mean, as he's being told, whether it was going to happen or not, he was the heir apparent. He was the next Tribal Chief.
Yeah.
And he was going to get all that came with it. Gave that up because Jimmy wanted out.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And since Jimmy was sent to the hospital by Roman as Solo, Heyman and Roman have been really getting on the point that what happened to Jimmy was Jey's fault.
Yeah.
And I could, if I extrapolate, I could think of motivation for Jimmy.
Oh, the motivation is there. I think the motivation
it's there.
is there.
Whether it's a satisfying turn in the story is a different thing entirely.
You're exactly right. And honestly, I think they probably could, you and I, we had read somewhere, and this was an erroneous report, obviously, and it was never clarified. It was never broached on TV, but I think some people thought that would be the case, that like family members, bloodline members would not be allowed to be involved. And that wasn't obviously wasn't the case. It was never brought up on TV. It was something that was on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And I thought maybe they could have done a thing where, because the Usos are no longer technically, if you remember, the original thing was either you fall in line behind me or you're not in the family anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like since the Usos turned on Roman, that really wasn't explored all that much. Like what exactly that entails. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And maybe they could have, because, towards down the stretch in this match, it was just Solo and Roman versus Jey. And yes, there was a miscommunication where Solo was speared, but Solo still went after Jey. And so it was like, okay, well, what's sort of the point of this if it's just 2-on-1? Like, it's not really doing much. Yeah. Like you said, the motivations for Jimmy, you can definitely extrapolate them, whether it's because of Roman saying, it would have been Jimmy as the number 2 and you ruin that for him. It could be some amount of Jimmy maybe understanding that they're just overwhelmed, and so he's running back to the bloodline. You can extrapolate some reasons there.
It could be Jimmy gets put in the hospital was the first thing. This is one thing that Heyman mentioned. Jimmy gets put in the hospital was the first thing Jay do, challenge Roman to a match, you know?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. But just the lack of, honestly, just the lack of drama down the stretch, which I'm sorry, but most bloodline matches are really, really good. Like they thrive off of the drama that happens down the stretch. So yeah, it was not, I don't know. It doesn't really motivate much beyond now Jay versus Jimmy, which I think is going to be, here's the thing. I honestly do think that this might be, it wasn't executed in the most dramatic way, but it could lead to some really good stuff. What happened in this match, Roman inadvertently spearing Solo, that tension between Roman and Solo is building to a head. And so how is that going to play out? Jimmy versus Jay. What is Jimmy's, relationship with the bloodline as it stands now? There are a lot of interesting things coming out of this. The match itself did not live up to the standards that the bloodline matches have set, which have been really high. They have been.
Well, it's not just the match itself, but the story beats that happen towards the conclusion of the match or post-match in some instances, where you have these story beats that really push the story forward. And this is just one of those story beats. It feels like it pushed the story forward for Jimmy and Jay, but not necessarily the bloodline as a whole. I know you got the Roman spearing Solo. The tensions there have been brewing for a while. And if maybe Solo would try to do something to get back at Roman directly for that, whether he tried for a spike, and avoiding that, Roman avoids that, Jay ends up getting it, Roman wins that way, then you're like, okay, there's serious heat there between Roman and Solo, other than, Solo eats that spear and he starts like kind of looking at Roman holding his ribs and talking to him, and Roman's just like, no, let's concentrate on what we're supposed to do. Let's beat this guy first, and we'll worry about that later.
Right. I think at one point he like pointed at the spike because he had it's all taped up. I don't even know if he can do this, but he's like, what are you doing with that right there? We have a job to do. Let's get it done. And that was unresolved. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It was the power of the bloodline really does get by on the strength of the performances, the moments, the story beats, and how those story beats are played out via the performances of, the cast of characters here. And it was the lack of that, I think. It's like all we got was Jimmy pulling Jay off Roman for the pin, and then they stare at each other. And I feel like they probably could have, I don't know, gone a little deeper with that, maybe. Because as soon as he gets pulled off, oh, it's Jimmy, and then he reveals himself, and it's like, and there's not like, there really wasn't much else going on there. And typically there sort of is. Again, it's the sort of thing where I'll probably just think about it a lot tonight and come back on Monday with more, or tomorrow if we were able to do the star rating video, maybe we'll do that. But yeah, we'll have more probably to say about that stuff. Highlight of the night, obviously, was the triple threat: Asuka versus Charlotte versus Bianca Belair. A fantastic match, an absolutely fantastic match, and punctuated with Bianca not just winning the title in a really clever finish, but Io Sky cashing in. No turn from Bayley, and Bayley, in fact, helping facilitate it, taking out Charlotte and helping take out Bianca with the briefcase. One moonsault later. And Io Sky, a much-deserved championship now for her with the WWE Women's title. Awesome moment. Awesome, phenomenal match.
Yeah, it was a really good match of the night.
Yeah. And just a really, really great spot. So that, nothing but high praise for the women's match there.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's talk about Judgment Day. Not a great night for them.
No.
And I'll be honest, unless they find a way, unless they have some sort of hard pivot, a real missed opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, it was different circumstances, but more or less a replay of what we saw at the last pay-per-view, where Finn just he's whether it's the paranoia, whatever, can't get out of his head that Priest is trying to deny him his one-on-one match against Seth Rollins, there was a moment where Priest literally slid his briefcase in the ring, was telling Finn, use it.
Yeah.
Use it. You can use that. I'm giving that to you. Use it. And Finn, rather than Finn being like, oh, cool, I appreciate that, it's, are you trying to cash in on me? Are you trying to get involved in this match? Not cash in me, sorry, cash in on Seth. Are you trying to get in on this match? It's like, no, he's literally saying to you, I'm giving this for you to use. And Priest tries again later, and Finn ends up getting stomped on the briefcase to take the L. And it was kind of worth it strictly for Damian Priest's reaction after Finn lost, because that was pretty great.
Yeah.
But
what an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Finn looks like an absolute fool.
So, dude, there's totally a difference between a person who is sort of so consumed with emotion, in this case, Finn Balor, and what happened with Seth Rollins 7 years ago, and being so consumed with that it eats him alive and it causes him to, self-destruct.
Yeah.
When you look like an absolute idiot doing so, it sucks the drama out of it.
It does.
It really does, because
you can
it's
see
like,
where it's going. You can see absolutely where it's going.
and it's like, you've got, and I appreciate that he kicked out of one stomp and then Seth kicked out of a coup de grace.
Yeah.
But like, and so it keeps him strong. It was up until the finish, it was a really good match, much better than the last one.
Yeah,
it was a really good match.
Yeah.
But like, there is, and I understand that like there is and in wrestling, there's always the tropes of, for example, a distraction. Seth Rollins, especially, for some reason, I've always clued in on Seth Rollins, has the most tunnel vision when it comes to his character, has the most tunnel vision when it comes to distractions. That comes with, it's part of the language of pro wrestling. The lack of clear communication is a wrestling trope as well.
Yeah.
But, and again, it's like, I understand Finn, by his own admission, has been driven to insanity, but stupidity is like a little bit further on, and
it's a bridge too far. Yeah.
And you can't, it's difficult to buy into the story when a guy just acts like an idiot, as opposed to, oh my God, he's being driven to, new lengths and he's self-destructing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and look, honestly, I freely admit we are fans first. And I'm, as a fan, want to see Finn Balor win that thing. But like, and part of it is like, yeah, Seth will move on to a new feud. Mm-hmm. But like, the idea of the title being in Judgment Day while Priest has the briefcase is such a damn good one.
It really is.
And I'm kind of surprised that they didn't roll with it, because
I know,
damn, that's a good story.
They could have had their cake and eat it too. You could have had this match play out exactly as it did, only for Finn not to get stomped on the briefcase. Mm-hmm. Like, imagine if Seth was going for that, Finn gets his head out of the way.
Yeah.
And Finn ends up getting the win.
Yeah.
You still have that distrust potentially between Priest and Finn that's been percolating for a number of weeks.
Yeah.
And you could tell the story of Priest giving Finn his word not to cash in on him while Finn is holding onto that title, and the tension's just building and building and building and building and building. It's strange to me that that's not a story they're choosing to explore.
And I appreciate whoever put the match together. I appreciate, the irony of Finn losing basically because his head got stomped into the thing that he fears the most, a Damian Priest cash in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the idea also of maybe that briefcase getting damaged in some way while Finn wins it, thus always being a reminder as Priest holds it, the visual metaphor there could have been really, really good in the story.
Yeah.
That tension, I really wish they would have explored it. There's no logical path for Finn to get a rematch against Seth.
No,
this was his chance. They're simply not going to do it.
No.
Priest still has the briefcase, so I don't know what route they're going to. Fuck, I say that, and tomorrow on Raw or Monday on Raw, they'll do a title match with Finn and Seth, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think so either.
But yeah, I guess it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I just hope that the next story beat isn't simply going to be Finn's mad at Damian, Damian's mad at Finn.
Yeah.
And they just sort of exist like that until Damian decides to cash in, and maybe Finn fucks him over. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it was a missed opportunity for a good story, and maybe they will prove me wrong and tell an equally, even a more compelling story, after this. But I really wanted to see that explored.
Yeah, I did too. Before we get to the match by match breakdown, let's talk about Cody and Brock. So, myself included.
Say, I'm so done. I'm so done with that feud, man.
Yeah, I know. So, I was one of the people saying Cody needed more adversity before he beat Roman.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And so the feud with Brock makes sense because Brock is kind of like in a lot of respects final boss,
Mm-hmm, yeah, right, yeah.
I think Cody's referenced him to the mountain that he needs to climb to move on to title contention.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether it's Cody's kind of more melodramatic approach to storytelling or what, but this whole feud between the broken arm and this particular match seemingly was booked to reference Brock's match against John Cena at SummerSlam years back, where Suplex City was invented,
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Except in this case, Cody comes back and wins.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Because most of this bout, Brock was manhandling Cody. Hit, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 German suplexes on him.
A ton, yeah. Yeah.
And Brock just couldn't keep Cody down. Cody ends up winning with 3 consecutive crossroads. And I don't know, it's a situation where sometimes you push the suspension of disbelief too far, that it gets ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
You go back and it's comical when Michael Cole says that Brock Lesnar made a tactical error breaking Cody's arm.
It's great, yeah.
It's comical, it's funny, but also it's like that makes absolutely no sense.
It's the absurdity of specifically like the old school shit that Dusty came from.
Yeah,
it's absolutely absurd, but and told in a modern context, it's even more absurd because it's like, well, we're savvy,
Yeah.
Like we know that this shit ain't titanium.
No, it's not titanium. The first time he hits Brock with it, he'll be writhing in pain on the ground if his arm was really broken.
Yeah, dude, I actually thought that there was a character beat to this that, again, I kind of feel like if it was explored prior to this, could have been kind of interesting. You notice Brock was trying to get a count out win.
Yeah.
He was imploring Cody to stop because Brock knew that he was going to. This wasn't a man who wanted to maul Cody. This was a man who wanted to just win so that Cody would stop because he didn't want Cody to get hurt. And at the end of the match, after Cody won, he gave him the rub. He put his hands up, shook his hand, was like, "Good job, kid. Let's make sure everybody knows Brock Lesnar saying you're tough."
Yeah.
And I feel like, how we never got the motivation for Brock Lesnar, turning on Cody?
Yeah.
If the idea was, and I think Cody's alluded to it, like, Brock Lesnar is my adversity. I mean, he basically said that.
No, he literally said, Brock is a mountain I got to go through and climb to get back in the title picture. Yeah.
And I feel like maybe the feud would have been stronger had Brock Lesnar had his original motivation simply been, if you're gonna take on Roman, you lost to Roman, and if you think you're gonna beat that, you're gonna have to go through my worst, because I want to see this. I want to see the next generation move on before I'm gone. If that was the motivation for Brock, like, hey, I'm gonna be your proving ground.
Yeah.
Then I think we could have had some more interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know if like him breaking Cody's arm backstage fits into what that is.
Well, I guess it would test Cody's gumption,
sure.
whether he's willing to keep fighting despite adversity. If it's simply a thing where like, all right, I'm going to test your mettle, Cody, to see if you have what it takes to get back to Roman and maybe beat him, because Brock obviously has experience.
Yeah.
Numerous matches against Roman. It's something. And that's a story to explore. And maybe that was the initial idea. And they were like, well, let's not be direct with it. Let's let the viewer infer if that's the case, And I think it did the story disservice not to have a motivation, easily understandable motivation for Brock. Because it's just like, okay, there's Brock, force of nature, coming in and blindsided Cody and decided, all right, I'm gonna try to destroy him.
And maybe the idea was we don't need to do it in a promo if the reveal at the end of this was we can all put the pieces together. Brock was putting Cody through the motions in order to test his mettle and move him along up the ladder. Maybe the point has been taken because I understood it.
Yeah.
Oh man, LA Knight showing up at the press conference. It's amazing. He's got dad jeans.
Yeah.
I love him so much. Yeah. Another highlight of the night was him winning the Slim Jim Battle Royal.
Yeah.
But I am glad that the feud is done with. Cody gets to move on to whatever he's gonna move on to. But yeah, a bit of old school wrestling stuff there with Cody and Brock. A little bit ridiculous. The match tonight, Cody just kept on coming back, and he was beat up afterwards, man. He had scars everywhere, lumps everywhere.
Yeah. He was bleeding from his shoulder. Yeah.
Going in there with Brock Lesnar is not easy for anybody.
Can't be. No.
That guy is just an absolute monster. So I don't know. I feel like I might warm up to that match a little bit by the time tomorrow rolls around.
Yep, we'll see. I guess we can jump into it.
Sure.
Show kicked off with Logan Paul versus Ricochet. I know their goal was to, as stated at least in promo stuff, to have the most viral match, at least on the card, maybe in WWE history. I don't know if they quite got there, although Logan's buckshot lariat from the ring to the floor was pretty damn impressive.
He's got the best buckshot lariat in the business.
Pretty good.
He's so damn smooth with that thing, man. Yeah. They did it. There was a couple of cool moments here. They try, I like to give effort points sometimes, and I give him an A for effort for the for attempting to land the Spanish fly off the apron and then doing and going right back into another one. I actually, and you might agree with this, I liked this match more than the Logan Paul Seth Rollins match.
Absolutely. I mean, from a storytelling perspective, it was way better. Logan's gotten better with selling moments, telling the story of the match. In terms of not getting a pinfall and reacting to it, rather than just be like, "Oh shucks, I didn't get it there," but like actually being crestfallen, being upset, heartbroken.
Yeah,
that a move you thought was going to finish the match and didn't do it.
Yeah. And dude, honestly, I think that I know it was like a one small thing, but it became a bigger thing, introducing the Samantha Irvin aspect of it, where you have to announce that I beat your guy, and your girl has to announce my name as having beat you. I thought that played into it pretty well. They cut to her every once in a while during the match, and she's terrified of the idea of having to say that he won. And then the piece of shit wins with a pair of brass knuckles. Again, another sort of old school thing, which I'll be honest, I know it got a lot of criticism from the chatters that we had, and that's great. I was cool with it because it protects the hell out of Ricochet. He looks great. And I think this feud has actually done a lot of good for Ricochet. His promos have been pretty good. Fleshed him out a little bit after all this time in WWE. And Logan Paul, another impressive performance. You hit him with those brass knucks. And it's sort of a protected win for Ricochet. I thought that he was going to lose clean to Logan Paul because it would, I don't know. I just thought that was going to be the case. And he did it
like Logan's lost 2 straight matches. He probably was due for a win.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And it turns out he did win, but I was not expecting him to cheat to do it. He had somebody that the commentary said was part of his crew come give him the brass knuckles, and he hits Ricochet with it. The first probably actual knockout he's ever gotten with that right hand of his.
LA Knight looks so delighted to be in a press conference spot.
That's so cool.
His face looks so happy right now.
I imagine he's got to be over the moon, man.
I think you're right.
Preceding that spot, though, Ricochet went up top for a 630 and missed it, and that looked like
just back to Matt. Oh my gosh.
Oof.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was crazy.
That looked like it sucked. So, after Logan gets the win, is when he tells Samantha, "Now you got to say that I beat your fiance." She's not happy about it.
Yeah.
And then he has to leave to go to his brother's fight, which I think is happening right now.
I think you were out of the room for this, but Sheamus arrived and what looked like it was the Redeemer. It wasn't actually like the Redeemer, but it was pretty big. He didn't
Redeemer.
He didn't drive through any like porta potties or pinball machines
or any like kitchen sets or anything like that.
Yeah, right. He didn't do any of that, but he shows up. And then we've got, according to our note taker, Chris Garrix, which thank you so much for doing the notes for us, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
We had the first of 4 main event matches. Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. We went over a lot of this match. There was a lot of German suplexes in this match.
Yes.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think the point was to echo the John Cena match from SummerSlam all those years ago.
It was 2014, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was an interesting decision on Brock's part to numerous times, 2 or 3 times, at least twice.
Yeah.
To look for a count-out win on Cody. Hits him with an F5 on the floor. Then another puts him through the announce table. Cody, of course, climbs and scratches and claws to get himself back in the ring. Then he goes on to run, hits a disaster kick, Cody cutter, another Cody cutter, looks for a crossroads. Brock blocks it with a Kimura. Mm-hmm. Cody gets the ropes, and then he eventually locks on a Kimura of his own.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Brock gets out of that, deadlifts him up, and then eventually Brock looking for F5. Cody then hits a crossroad, hits 2 more after that to get the win. But Cody got the shit beat out of him this match.
He really did. Yeah, he really did. I mean, I know we harp on the, well, you do anyways, on the adversity of Cody Rhodes that is necessary. Yeah. I feel like the guy's been through plenty of adversity in his life, having watched the Cody Rhodes documentary. But that being said.
You didn't even finish it. Why are you saying you watched it?
Oh, you remembered that. Okay. But the guy he puts it all out there. I mean, like I said, getting 3 matches against Brock Lesnar, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot. And if you can quibble about the fictional adversity of Cody Rhodes, but my God, man, 3 matches against Brock Lesnar.
I mean, in AEW, Cody, put himself through a flaming table, lit his shoe on fire.
Oh God, he's so good.
Took that crazy cutter off the top of the ladder from Sammy Guevara. I mean, he's willing to put his body through it to tell the stories.
Did he do like a moonsault off the top of a kid? Yeah, onto Wardlow.
Did against Wardlow. Yeah,
man. Shout out to Wardlow for catching him like he did. Oh boy, that can't be easy, man.
Yep. So of course, crowd's happy that Cody wins, and as mentioned, Brock gets up and he pulls Cody real close to him, and they're like, forehead to forehead. Yeah. And then he shakes his hand, and then gives him a hug, and then raises his hand.
Oh, it's a feel-good moment. Such a feel-good moment.
I guess so.
So anyways, after that, we have, the Slim Jim 25-man Battle Royal. Yeah. So everybody's already there except for The Miz, who gets his own entrance. Yeah. And then, LA Knight, who won his match on SmackDown on Friday.
Yeah.
But didn't matter. No go-home math for him. Omos made his big return as well.
Some great looking gear too.
And dude, he was just in really good shape.
He was in great shape.
Like his waist is all thin and he's all freaking cut up here and everything. He looked like $1 million. Mm-hmm. But they did the big man segment or bit where everybody again, because he throws out Apollo Crews, he threw out a bunch of dudes. And then everybody just ganged up on him and
toss him over the top rope.
Toss him overboard, yeah.
Yeah, our final 3 were LA Knight. AJ Styles and Sheamus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So LA Knight's looking for a BFT on Sheamus. Sheamus blocks it, hits a knee. He's looking for a Celtic cross. Knight escapes that. Sheamus is on the apron. Sheamus heads up top. Knight leaps up. So if you watch SmackDown, they kind of botched the spot. They hit it this time.
Yeah.
And then LA Knight clothesline Sheamus out to get the win. Crowd goes crazy. LA Knight super over. Right now, the odds of LA Knight maybe facing Roman Reigns at Mania 40, I think, are getting close to the Cody rematch. What do you say?
Dude, I'll be honest with you, from a business standpoint, number 1 merch seller. I think he's got the 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 8th top merch selling shirts.
Yeah.
He's young. He's got nothing but the future ahead of him. He's probably a top 5 worldwide in-ring wrestler. So it would make all the sense. And he's like a 4th generation superstar. Of course, his dad, Josiah Knight, his father, Baby Billy Knight. And who can forget his game show, Baby Billy's? No, that's a different. That's a
different show, Steve.
That's
nice try.
Yeah, no, probably not. But you know what? Hopefully he'll get that U.S. title.
Yeah, it seems a possibility. I mean, Austin Theory was in this battle royal tonight.
He got chucked.
And he got the U.S. champion got no introduction.
Yeah, he was just in there with
everybody else in the ring.
Karrion Kross, and who's looking like buff CM Punk these days.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
What a great head of hair Karrion Kross has.
Yeah.
Wonderful head of hair.
Oh, dude. Man, yeah. It's a great head. Yeah. It looks like he's growing out long, too, which I want to see, man.
He is. He's going to look like CM Punk in the Straight Edge Society days if he keeps this up.
He's a very handsome man. As Keith would say.
Yes.
Anyways.
Next up, we have the MMA rules match between Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. I was curious how they were going to go about booking a kayfabe MMA match because AEW did one between Jake Hager and Wardlow that started out all right.
Yeah.
But then they got to started throwing punches like a Rocky movie.
Uh-huh.
And it kind of was like, all right, you lost me there.
Yeah.
This one was paced, I thought, pretty well. All the strikes looked good. That head kick that Shayna gave to Ronda.
Yeah, right.
Ronda tumbled out of the ring. That was awesome.
There were a couple strikes like that I was like, oh man.
Ronda hit that stiff knee on Shayna too.
Yeah. I like that. Look, it's a different thing that they're trying to do, the MMA rules thing.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if maybe the setting was a bit more produced up, if they had like a cage type
Took
situation,
the ropes off, something like that, maybe
Raw Underground type thing. Yeah, somebody mentioned that in our chat. It didn't quite connect with the crowd, and you got to wonder if some of it might have been the feud. It's only like a couple weeks old basically, and I think this is basically a blow off because I don't know if Ronda's going to be back or not.
Yeah,
It
I don't
doesn't
know
seem
either.
like it. But in terms of other, I thought Shayna looked like she had like a whole new presentation with like some stuff on her face, and the crowd wasn't really into it. I thought it, again, talking about effort points. I love the idea. And I thought that there were moments that showcased what it could be. And unfortunately, it didn't hit on all those moments. You know what I mean?
I will say this. I thought in terms of trying to achieve what they're aiming for, I thought this was much more effective than the Fight Pit match with Riddle and Seth Rollins they had during their feud.
I hate the Fight Pit match.
I'm not huge on the Fight Pit. At least in
stand
NXT, I thought at least a couple of the matches were somewhat enjoyable. That Riddle Rollins one was a bit of a stinker.
It was, yeah. I think Riddle, Thatcher. I think that was the good one.
Yeah.
Didn't they? Wasn't it Riddle and Thatcher? I know
It was.
Thatcher was.
Ciampa had one too.
Oh, did he? Okay. Did Riddle? Can somebody look at it? I think Riddle and Thatcher had one.
Yeah, Thatcher replaced Pete Dunne in their tag team.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
All
right.
right. Nikal says Thatcher and Ciampa was a good one.
Okay, maybe that was the good one.
I can see that being a good one.
Yeah. Regardless, whenever you're changing up the format to incorporate like MMA stuff, I thought Ronda and Shayna did as good as you could possibly do for a match like this. I really do.
Yeah.
And honestly, part of it is I really like Shayna Baszler. And I think Ronda gets too much. I think Ronda is is overly criticized. I think that her run in WWE hasn't been like, there's been stumbles here and there, but, over this last, group of months, her trying to elevate the tag title, her putting over Liv Morgan, her trying to get Shayna Baszler back to where she really should be at this point. I think she should be commended for that. And I think overall I like her WWE run more than I don't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy she did it.
Yeah. And you got to appreciate her selflessness, over the last year or so.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, putting over Liv, pushing to get the tag title run with her and Shayna, and then pushing for the story with her apparently when she's on her way out of the company. So, if this is it for Ronda and WWE, then, you got to give her credit for go about handling things the right way, her last year or so.
It was better than the Lions Den match.
Yeah, it was.
What did you say? No disrespect intended to Owen Hart, but if you get Ken Shamrock alone in a room with the dude and Dan Severn is the special guest, you're not getting out of that room if you're up against Ken Shamrock.
No, not at all. Yeah. The finish of this saw Shayna. She puts on an ankle lock. Ronda counters, looking for a choke. So Shayna rolls through that and locks on the clutch on Ronda. So Ronda tries to go after Shayna's arm because at one point in the match, Shayna's like, my arm's busted up. And like, trainers actually come in. To take a look at her, Ronda throws him out of the ring because she just wants the fight to continue. So Ronda tries to go after that, and then Shayna starts biting down on her glove to get through the pain and keep that clutch locked in. And then Ronda passes out.
Sorry, dang MQ said Dan Severn with his gray T-shirt half filled with sweat.
Yeah,
because
he was Owen's trainer for that.
It was probably so steamy in there.
Well, there was the match that's the Stu Hart Dungeon one. You're thinking of the Lion's Den.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the Lion's Den. I was thinking of the. I'm sorry, of the dungeon. I'm thinking of dungeon.
Yeah,
that was a super cheesy one. The Lion's Den one wasn't terrible.
No, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
it wasn't that bad. No, not at all.
Yeah. That was all right.
But then, if you have Ken Shamrock in a cage with just about anybody, short of like Minoru Suzuki or maybe Dan Severn.
Yeah, exactly.
Not anybody. Most people aren't going to have a chance against Ken
I
Shamrock.
I agree. Man,
So
yeah,
all those match for a little bit.
All those goofy matches have just sort of melded into one Rawgate version of whatever.
Yeah.
It's always in the dungeon too. I totally forgot about the fucking cage. Anyways, so after that we had the announcement of the attendance. Boy, Chris he's so thorough. 59,194. He says, so probably 51,500. What do you think the actual number is going to be, Larson?
I don't know. I would guarantee you WrestleTix has it. So if you want to get into this Intercontinental title
Oh, that's a
match,
good point. Drew McIntyre versus Gunther.
Oh, wow.
Next. Yeah.
Chris isn't that far off. 51,477 from WrestleTix.
Holy shit. Good job, Chris.
23 off.
Well done. So Drew McIntyre versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. And this was exactly as you thought it would be. Just two big dudes just beating the living shit out of each other. Probably my second favorite match of the night, I think, probably after the Women's Championship match. The Finn Seth one was good. It was just the end was stupid.
Yeah, the end was pretty deflating.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, a lot of chops, a lot of lariats. There was basically a stretch where they were hitting lariats on each other for like a minute straight.
Yeah.
No point did Gunther chop down a Claymore, which I thought was a missed opportunity.
Agreed. Yeah.
But you got Drew kicking out of a power bomb. You got Gunther kicking out of a Claymore.
Yeah.
So after that, the Claymore, Drew's pretty stunned. He gets back to his feet, lifts Gunther up, puts him up the top rope. They battle back and forth a little bit. And then Gunther eventually fights him off, pushes Drew into the ropes, hits a huge splash, follows with a giant lariat, and then a power bomb to get the win. I like the way that, we've seen Gunther use all those moves, the splash, the lariat, and the power bomb to finish matches, going back to his NXT UK days. And he's like, I really got to put Drew away. I'm going to hit them all in a row.
Ultimate combo for Gunther there. Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder if Gunther stopped doing it. Remember that new finish he had for a little bit? He hasn't been doing that recently.
Yeah, he's trying out new things. Maybe didn't like it. I don't know.
Could be.
Got to ask yourself what happens with Drew after this. Like, clearly Gunther's going to break the record. Yeah. Who knows how long after that he'll lose it. I mean, whoever's going to take it off Gunther, it's going to be a hell of a wrestler because he has established himself as a dominant force.
Yep.
Drew McIntyre, I would never say, especially after a match like this, that a guy is checked out. But his circumstances as of late have been kind of interesting. The reports of his contract coming up, being unsatisfied with his creative. I personally, I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world to say. A monster heel Drew would be fascinating. Yeah. It would be cool.
Yeah.
And I know that he has also said recently that, the Make-A-Wish stuff is important to him. So who knows if he would go down that route.
He said the story would really have to be something for him to consider that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So where does Drew McIntyre go from here?
I know he's kind of in this tier. If you look, we talk about like the tier rankings of, enhancement talent, depth guys and stuff. He's in this weird tier where he's not like a utility guy.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd be a perennial main eventer.
Yeah.
And he kind of, comes in and out of that level from time to time, but he's in this weird phase where like, I feel like people like him and people really get behind him. We've seen it before, and the lead up to him beating Brock at WrestleMania is still a bummer that he didn't get a title run in front of fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even a moment like that. So I don't know. I mean, it seems like obviously he's on Raw, so he's out of the title picture on SmackDown altogether, and he's already had a feud with Roman that he lost.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like he's going to be worked into the plans really on the Raw side of things, because it seems like they're going to give Seth the lengthy first run with that title. What, he just lost to Gunther for the Intercontinental title. What is he going to do?
I mean, honestly, a heel Drew against a Seth Rollins.
That could be a lot of fun.
And you do a title change with that, you know, especially if you're trying to entice the guy to stick around. If he wants good creative, a heel turn will do it. I mean, I know maybe he likes doing the Make-A-Wish, and maybe a heel turn, they can give him a compelling story. And sometimes that's, hey, you're going to be main eventing Raw. That's got to be compelling enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This feud sucked. Him and Gunther just was not a good feud. That's why I was like advocating for, like, when the conversation came up, what would you pull from this card to put Becky Trish on it? You pull this one, because Drew wasn't even there for the go home. And like this feud was basically Imperium beating the shit out of Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre being mad about it, I think, was the deal.
Kind of, yeah. But that's been kind of Riddle's role of like the last 6 months, basically.
He's the beat dummy that people get sad about.
And then he tries to find people to help him.
Yeah. So, man, I don't know. You got to do something fresh with them, just like we saw on Friday with the Street Profits. Putting them with Bobby Lashley, they come out there, do a bunch of cool shit. And the funny thing is, man, you know, I've seen so many articles, oh, Street Profits go heel. I don't think they did. They just came out and did some cool shit. You know, it's like, so they're not like the happy-go-lucky dudes they were before with the Solo Cups. They're like a couple of dudes who wear suits and hang out with Bobby Lashley and just beat down things. Bobby Lashley's not a bad guy. He's just a cool guy. You know, he just comes out there and wrecks people.
You hear the crowd's reaction after the Street Profits came out and beat everybody up, and then Lashley comes to the ramp, and they go.
They went crazy.
They went crazy chanting for Lashley.
Yeah.
People will get behind wrestlers doing cool stuff.
That's
you go out there and do cool stuff, the crowd will get behind you.
Especially if you haven't been used right in a while, in a long time. It's like, oh, thank God you're doing something with these guys.
Yep.
And with Drew, could be the same thing. You know, it could be he comes out there, you know, I don't know. Maybe Seth comes out, says, I'm done with Judgment Day. And Drew comes out in a manner that's like, hey, if you want a challenge, I could be your challenge. And maybe Seth belittles him a little bit and says, your best days were 3 years ago. I'm sorry, but like, you just lost to Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. What do you think you're going to do with me? And that sends Drew over the edge.
Yeah.
So he absolutely
got a chip on his shoulder. Yeah.
He completely wrecks Seth in front of everybody. And either he'll get booed or he'll get cheered. People just like cool shit, you know?
Exactly.
And if he does something that's cool, and sometimes people like to see people snap, they get disrespected.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the way you go. Otherwise, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know.
Either you going to feud with like a Bronson Reed? Why would you do that?
That's spinning of the wheels.
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah.
Spinning of the wheels. And we really wouldn't do anything to help Bronson Reed either. You know?
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't, because he would have to lose that feud.
Yep. After that, we had the World Heavyweight Championship match. Seth Rollins defending against Finn Balor. As mentioned, this finish was a bit of a letdown. It was a really good match. Really good match.
It was.
At one moment, Seth hits a pedigree. Gets a 2 count there. Then Damian Priest makes his way down to the ring. So this distracts Seth momentarily. Finn rolls him up. He kicks out right towards the ropes where Priest punches him. Pedigree by Finn, gets a 2 count. So Priest goes over, starts like waving as in to encourage people to come to the ringside towards the timekeeper area. Rhea and Dom make the way to ringside. So they're distracting the ref. And that's when Priest pushes the Money in the Bank briefcase into the ring and is like telling Finn, use it. Use this. I'm putting this in here for you to use. And Finn, it's like, are you trying to get involved? Are you trying to cash in on Seth now? Are you trying to make this a triple threat? So this allows Seth an opportunity to get back to his feet. He knocks Priest off the apron, hits a stomp. Balor kicks out of that. Seth goes up top, so the Dom gets on the apron. And so rather than do like a Phoenix Splash or something on Finn, Seth leaps to the floor and takes out Priest, and then hits Dom with a stomp on the floor. He gets back in the ring. Finn hits him with a sling blade, shotgun drop kick, coup de grace. Seth kicks out. So Finn is like, all right, now case me to Priest. And Priest is like, now you want the case.
Yeah.
Fine. So he slides the case in and kind of just walks away.
Yeah.
And then he gets on the apron, distracts the ref, but
it's like, instead of having like a sense of urgency, like, okay, here, let me go do this for you. It was like, here, saunters over. It was the most lackadaisical ref distraction.
It really
saunters over there, gets up on the apron. Hey, I'm distracting you.
Yeah.
You know?
And so while Finn's reaching for the briefcase, Seth stomps him
Idiot.
on it, covers him and win. And Priest's look afterward was great. It was so good. Just utter disappointment.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Like, you just screwed yourself, dude. I'm trying to help you here. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they make out of this. I mean, it might just straight up be tomorrow the Judgment Day ends, and Finn blows up on Priest.
Entirely possible.
And that's going to be
possible. Entirely possible. So then we get Alpha Academy doing a ad bit for Mike's Harder Lemonade that involved The Miz.
Yeah.
Because he says, I'm named Mike. That's my name.
Right.
And he ends up in a road case.
Right. Yeah. They stuff
by the end of this.
In a case. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I didn't really pay attention during this part.
I didn't either.
I think that's my Burger King can come till later. I think I was like looking at DoorDash what I was going to get.
That could be. That could be
what I was doing.
This instance, yes.
Took me a while to decide what I wanted.
Yeah, it did. Well, that's an important decision to make.
I know, but it just went back to like what I should have just figured on in the first place.
It ultimately went back to kind of the default, didn't it?
It really did, yeah.
What in doubt, Del Taco sandwich. Or chicken sandwich.
Exactly, yeah. So after that, we had Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, and Asuka for the WWE Women's Championship. Man, number one, they all kill it with the ring gear. They always do. They all look phenomenal, $1 million. And the creativity between all these and between all the competitors here and the chemistry, it's just off the charts. This is a match of the night for me, man. I thought this was great.
It's not even close. It's not even close. I don't think. So one story beat that happens early on is Bianca's kind of like grabbing at her knees. Not like a huge emphasis, but there's a couple instances where she's like, my knee's a little sore. So at one point, she gets backdrop out of the ring and towards where the ring steps are. And when she falls, she really slaps the ring steps really loud. And she's on the floor selling knee, just writhing in pain.
Oh, dude, it seemed legit. Like it
was. The sell job was
sell.
great. She did a great job selling this. So the idea is that she hit her knee on the ring steps.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So they have the trainers come out to check on her. And eventually, she gets helped up the ramp by the trainers. While this is happening, Asuka hits Charlotte with a superplex, and then so they're going back and forth. Asuka hits a back fist, but Charlotte responds with a spear, gets a 2 there. And then Charlotte has Asuka in the figure 8, and then Bianca's like, "No, get away from me, trainers! I'm going back in the ring." So to break up the figure 8, she goes up top and hits a 450 on Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets a 2 count, and she's holding her knee after that.
Yeah.
So everyone's down. Bianca and Charlotte get up. They start trading shots, and Bianca's looking for a KOD. Instead, Charlotte rolls through. Asuka's on the apron at this point, knocks Asuka off. Charlotte's looking for a figure 8 on Bianca, and then Asuka gets back in the ring and just right in the face. There's maybe like 8 inches between Asuka misting Charlotte and Charlotte's face.
Yeah.
It was just right in her face.
It was awesome.
And so, but Charlotte just drops down from the figure 8, doesn't break the hold per se. So then Asuka's looking for a kick on Bianca. Bianca ducks it, rolls up Asuka while she's still in a figure 4.
Yeah.
To get the win.
Yeah.
So even though she's getting the pinfall there, her knee is getting wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
So Bianca, she's holding the title up. Io's music hits. Her and Bayley come down to the ring. So Io hands Bayley the briefcase.
Dude, Io sprints.
Yeah, sprints.
Sprints, yeah.
But Bayley hits Asuka and Charlotte with the briefcase. They get in the ring. Bianca goes after Bayley and knocks her down. Well, in the process of that, Bayley loses the briefcase. Io takes the briefcase, hits Bianca in the back of the knee with it, blasts her with it again. And then she goes up top and she's like, "I'm cashing in." And she's yelling at the timekeeper, "Ring the bell, ring the bell, ring the bell." Because she's up on top, ready to hit that moonsault. She hits it, gets the 3 count. We got a new WWE Women's Champion.
Oh, man, it was awesome. It was thrilling. It was great. Everything that sort of didn't happen that I wanted to happen before
Yeah.
You know, that this was the cool shit right here, man. This
It was. And then so Io and Bayley are celebrating. Dakota Kai, who's been out with an injury,
Yeah,
joins them to
that's
celebrate.
right.
That was awesome.
That was great. Yeah.
That was super
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. It was also, I mean, we can note this as well. It was made public that Kairi Sane is apparently coming back to WWE as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to wonder if because Asuka had said something about having a plan.
Yeah.
I guess earlier in the day
on Friday,
on
yeah.
SmackDown. Okay, on SmackDown. And who knows if plans change or not, but can't wait to see Kairi Sane back in WWE, man. I think that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah. It is really cool. It is super cool. And then we had our main event, Tribal Combat. Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns. You know, this is a typical Roman main event. It really takes its time.
Yeah, God, it was like 40 minutes.
It was close to that.
Yeah, it was long.
It was a long match. And then they end up brawling through the crowd. There's some table spots, and Roman looked like he got his elbow busted up pretty good during one of those table spots. They end up going through the crowd. And that's when Solo makes his appearance, hits Jay with an Uranagi through a table over there in the crowd. It's like a little press area they were by. And then Roman's like, hey, take him back to the ring. So they make their way back to the ring. Looks for another Uranagi through the announce table. Jay escapes that, hits him with a super kick, and then puts him through the table with a splash. So then Jay, who he had actually already speared Roman through the barricade at this point, puts Roman back in the ring, hits him with another spear, goes up top for the splash, hits it, covers, and that's when Jimmy, with a hoodie on, pulls him out of the ring. You know, he takes the hoodie off, stared at his brother while Jay's like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? So they have this kind of moment between the two of them. Jimmy super kicks him, walks off, and then Roman spears Jay through a table set up in the corner of the ring to get the win.
Yeah, man. August 5 surprise, identity revealed.
Apparently.
Jimmy Uso, or was it?
Or was it?
Was it? I still say, make it a different Uso.
Yes.
Like you do it. Yeah, this is really easy to do. You get you just film a vignette or two, film like a bunch of vignettes. Jimmy's still in the hospital.
Yeah.
So who is this August 5th surprise?
I don't know.
Timmy Uso?
Timmy? Could be. Could be.
What's another J? Johnny Uso?
Yeah.
Jerry
Josh.
Uso. Jerry Uso.
Jerry's good.
Jerry, what are you doing? Anyways.
What are you doing, Jerry?
Find 3 great questions on Patreon, and I'll find
right.
3 great questions so we can wrap this up and go enjoy our weekends.
Sounds good.
By the way, actually, before we get into the questions, we should probably bring this up, man. The big, huge predictions challenge for SummerSlam. The drama. Flannelly Dan. With Money in the Bank. Did he cash in? No, he didn't.
No.
Because, John, Fear and Loathing, our new Big Blue predictions champion, nobody has retained. So Brandon McClendon, good job winning at whatever you want at.
Yeah, what was the last pay-per-view?
Mania.
No, Money in the Bank's happened after Mania.
Money in the Bank was Flannelly Dan, though.
Oh, it was a pay-per-view before that.
Mania.
No, there's one in May, wasn't there?
Was there? I don't know.
Gosh, my memory's garbage.
Same. I think I have.
Anyways, congratulations.
Hold on a second. No, that's John. When did John Hosey won? John Hosey won Weekend of Champions.
Oh, Night of Champions. Yeah.
When was Night of Champions?
That was before Money in the Bank.
Yeah, that was way before because Brendan McClendon's the new one. He's the
Forbidden
new
Door. Must be Forbidden Door.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. Okay, Forbidden Door. Okay. So,
All right.
John Fear and Loathing won. Flannelly Dan elected to. I got to ask, is Flannelly Dan still in our Twitch chat?
I don't know, but it's like it doesn't make any sense to.
Do you want to cash in? Do you want to cash in? Do you want to cash in?
Down 6 points. The highest point value, and there's 5.
Be a bad move he did then, isn't it?
Would be a bad move. Yeah.
If you're not first, you're last.
It would be a bad move. Dirty Rich is here in chat. He was in attendance there at Ford Fields for SummerSlam. Says loudest pops of the night were Cody, LA Knight, and EO's cash in. Such an amazing experience. Happy you had a good time there. Dirty
By
Rich.
the way, Dirty Rich had it going. Our first going in Raw sign in a while.
Yeah.
He had a sign show up on TV. He was there in the entryway, so I'm glad he had a great time.
Yes.
Thanks so much for representing the friendos there, Dirty
Indeed.
Rich. We appreciate it. Good stuff. Here we go.
I have a question here. Oh, you have one?
Yeah, I got one from Khan Nooney and Singh. Khan says, is there anyone else you could see or would like to have seen in the Sami Zayn bloodline role? An outsider that infiltrates and helps split up the group. It'd be Sami Zayn.
Sami is perfect for that.
These days, Grayson Waller, he could take that role.
Yeah, I think he could, but at the time, no, Sami, I think, was the perfect guy for it.
Yeah.
Shane McCarthy, does WB get the benefit of the doubt with the bloodline story? Has it run out of steam?
Wait, what's that? Oh, does WWE have the benefit of the doubt with the bloodline now?
Yeah, they still have the benefit of the doubt.
You know what, man? You can drop a stinker every once in a while. They're on such a good. The
bar
run.
is set so high, man.
The bar is set really high.
You got to keep that train rolling.
It is. Yeah, you got to keep that train rolling. Exactly. Dave Matushek. With Io Sky winning the women's championship, does this make her the de facto leader of Damage Control?
Remains to be seen, I guess. Maybe.
I think it's a triumvirate, man. It's all voices matter there in the Damage Control.
Lord Ziffer, Balor really is never going to be world champion in WWE again, huh? Love the match. It was my match of the night. Just the wrong outcome for me personally, says Lord Ziffer.
Same, dude. No, I agree.
Yeah,
this is coming strictly from a fan.
Yeah.
From a fan. That's fucked up. Finn should have won that.
It's a ball drop.
It's a ball drop. It's a ball drop. Look, you and I never claimed to be anything but fans.
Yeah.
I wanted to see Finn win that shit.
1,000%. But also from a storyline perspective, it made sense for a member of Judgment Day to walk out of the show as champion.
No. Triple H is on the press conference right now. Can somebody have said, Rich, if you're there at the press conference, can you ask him why this is such a ball drop? Why didn't you do what you should have done?
Yeah.
Everybody, they've got their, they got to wait sometimes.
The thing is, the story never ends.
Yes, that's exactly right. The story never ends. We got a couple super chats here. Drew says possible bloodline 4-way at Survivor Series.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. Jacob also with super chat says, I think they were trying to sell Finn as paranoid. They were. And we addressed this while we were talking about that. There's a fine line between being paranoid and being an idiot.
Yeah. And they crossed that threshold.
Seemingly, yeah. Also, Steve Koharski re-upped his membership for a month. For an additional month. Says, thanks for bringing me back to wrestling, Steve and Larson.
Thanks, Steve.
So, yeah, our question threads, our bonus episodes, and, of course, our big predictions challenge, what's heading into All Out at the end of this month. It's going to be an Advantage predictions challenge.
Yes.
Walking into the following week, All In, which will be the next time the Big Blue predictions title is on the line. That's when John Fear and Loathing is putting it on the line is All Out. At All In, whoever wins All In could walk into All Out.
Well, let me ask you a question.
With points.
So the day before All Out is Payback.
Oh, shit. Really?
So it's going to be a weekend, yeah. So we could do All In.
Weekend of Champions.
We could do all In, Payback, and All Out over the course of the whole week. 3-show predictions challenge.
An extravaganza, you say?
I do.
I say let's do an extravaganza.
All right, very well.
Wow.
Let's do an extravaganza.
Wow. And then on top of that, we'll have like 2 potential cash-ins because we've got Flannelly Dan here, but we also have the winner of the G1, which could be you because you're in the pole position.
I got a 1-point lead right now.
You're
picking
my guys too
I picked
early,
to reach
man.
the final. One of the guys I picked to reach the final is not even making it out of his block. I got no chance of winning this thing, man.
You peaked too early.
Naito wins. I might have a chance. We got one more question here from Johnny Night Moves. This is a good one. Seth versus Roman for Survivor Series. Do you let Seth get the win and maintain Roman's title reign or bury the world title? If Roman faces Seth again, Roman has to win that match. Because he's never beaten Seth.
Because Seth was the original betrayal.
Yep.
Roman's got to exercise that demon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if they were like, nope, not doing that.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Johnny Night Moves.
Thank you. Johnny Knight moves.
And with Johnny Knight moves is his question, we're going to end our night. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We absolutely appreciate it. Go to friendoshop.com. I had planned to have new merch, but I don't have the new merch.
We got a weekend of champions coming up, or a week of champions coming up, so we can do merch then.
We'll do merch then. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hang out. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Till next time.